All right, good morning, everyone. This is Sarah Profit. This is our course walkthrough meeting for PSYC205. I'm joined today with our course developer, Carolyn McCutcheon, who will speak with you in just a moment about the course and what she's done. Let me just talk briefly about the development process and what we followed for this specific project. This was a little bit of a unique project given that it was not a course that we developed from scratch. So this process we followed is what we call minor redevelopment. So basically what Carolyn was able to do was she took the existing SAM, as you see listed here, the Session Alignment Matrix is what the SAM stands for. She took the existing SAM and made modifications on that. And also she went through what we call a course upgrade analysis checklist. So she basically analyzed the areas of the course in regards to accessibility, in regards to test questions and how those were worded, and looking at how those were tying back to the objectives and competencies of the course, and just look specifically at those different areas as she went through and analyzed what needed to change, as well as identified some areas where the directions of the assignments weren't very clear, so she wanted to tighten those up a little bit. And so basically just kind of a refresher on the course. Nothing was started from scratch in this process. I just want to make that part clear. The roles and expectations, I think, are pretty clear from everybody who's here today. You've all been involved in this before, but for the purposes of the recording, I'll just explain what the roles are here. So the developer, obviously the role of Carolyn is to serve as a subject matter expert, to vet the content and its appropriateness to the course objectives and competencies and assignments and learning activities and all of those fun things. The committee members, obviously the role in that is we ask for feedback at each milestone of the process that we follow. Milestone 1 consisted of that project summary document that I sent to you, as well as the updated syllabus in the course, and session 1 that was revamped, and you were all enrolled and are still enrolled in the course as students. If you wanted to follow along today, you could access the course through Blackboard if that was something you're interested in doing. So you always have access to the course as a student. And then this milestone brings us all the way to milestone 5. So milestone 1 is kind of that initial, we want to get your feedback, we want to know how you feel about the course. Milestones 2 through 4 are all content related. So Carolyn's just going through and building out that content and fixing any areas where she was going to do those upgrades. And then we are in milestone 5 right now, which is the course walkthrough and any final adjustments that need to be made, as well as the tech check process, where we have an outside person come in and check all the links and look at the syllabus and calendar and course sessions and make sure everything's all in alignment with the grade center and all of those good things as well. And then my role as the instructional designer is basically to serve kind of as a consultant for Carolyn if she has any technical issues, questions about Blackboard. I serve as a liaison between the course developer and you as the committee, so handling all of those communications and making sure we're all on the same page, scheduling all of these meetings to make sure we're all, we can all be together on a day that suits most of the committee, and basically to just keep our timelines on track, so to be sure that we're meeting all of our deadlines and giving feedback when it's needed. So that's kind of all the roles and expectations at a high level. So are there any specific questions about that, or anything that I've talked about before we move on? Okay, Carolyn, I'm going to turn it over to you. Give me 1 second. If you're not familiar with the folks on the line, Carolyn, if you wanted to maybe introduce yourself a little bit or give a little bit of a background before you jump in, totally up to you. Whenever you're ready, you can share your screen.
Okay. Hi, my name is Carolyn McCutcheon. I was the course developer for this class. I am in the Central Indiana region. I am a site director for one of our community sites, as well as I'm adjunct faculty in the psychology department. So I have had experience in Blackboard as a student when I was working on my doctorate at Ball State University, and I also have experience in working on it as an instructor. So I've worked on it, with it on both sides. And I'll bring that up later when I'm explaining some of the changes I made. So let's see, where are we starting with first, Sarah? Do we want to go to Blackboard?
Yeah, let's go into the syllabus first, and then if your course calendar is ready to go, you can scroll through that so everybody can see at a high level where all the assignments and assessments come up in the sessions, and then we can look specifically at session 1 after that.
All right, let me bring it up here. Okay, where did it go? I lost Blackboard. It's got to be here. Maybe this is why. Here we go. Okay. All righty. So let's go to course information. All right. This is not changed in terms of the instructor information. Student resources were not changed. Okay, the syllabus. The only thing that was changed on the syllabus, and I have it here, you know, updated as, oh, I get this silly, sorry about this. I can't get this off of my computer. Okay. All right, now are you seeing the syllabus or are you seeing Blackboard?
Not yet. We're still seeing Blackboard.
Okay.
You might have to move it over if you have 2 monitors.
Yeah, I have 2 monitors, so.
Yeah, that happens to me a lot.
Okay. All right. All right, now can you see the syllabus?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So nothing was changed in terms of the course outline of record. The one change was we changed the edition of the text from the 8th edition with the DSM update to the 9th edition. So that was changed within the syllabus. I think we also, based upon the recommendations of the committee, we went from 15 discussion boards at 10 points each to 10 discussion boards at 15 points each. So as I'm going through here, because I changed nothing on this, you know, in terms of anything having to do with messaging, you know, how you communicate, all of that was not touched. What I did change was I changed the discussion board activities to 10 times 15 points. So they maintain the same total amount of points that there were in the previous version, but it's just fewer discussion boards and 5 points more per discussion board. The quizzes are the same, the case study papers are the same, the paper was the same, midterm and final. So that was the only real change within the let's see, quizzes. All right, and the course quizzes, there'll be 15 quizzes, and you know, and it says that they will have 1 attempt at each quiz. I know we had some discussion earlier about whether, you know, we would have multiple attempts, or at least I had suggested that, and the committee had said that they didn't want to do that because this is an upper level course, and I can understand that completely. So anyway, so throughout the course I have said you have 1 attempt on each quiz, because I find that it's better for students to know that and to be very aware of what they, you know, what their responsibility is. Within the discussion board, one of the things that I did, and this is not changed from the syllabus, was I clarified the word count requirement for this, and it has been placed within, you know, the rubric for the discussion boards, and it's in the directions each time they see the discussion boards. Again, from my experience as a student and as an instructor, this is one of the areas where students stumble a lot in terms of, and I had it this week on my online Psych 101 class. Several students just ripped off a few sentences on their discussion board initial post, and it's like, this isn't enough. You have to have the minimum word count. So I tried to make that very clear to students throughout the entire semester. So, and you think, well, they should know that, but you know, they forget or something, I don't know. So that was one of the things that I made very clear. I don't think this was changed, but it was something that throughout the semester is you know, re-emphasized. So nothing else has been changed. So there was really minimal need to change this. The one in the Sarah, this one in the project is the updated one that I changed. It has a date on it and everything. So, you know, I didn't put it. I just kept it within the project shell.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay. All right. So the next, where are we going? Let me move this
If your
over here.
course calendar is ready, we could show that.
Okay, we can do that. All right, so we'll go down here. Okay, here it is within the course. And let me get this out of the way. This is within the course. There's also, you know, the exact same thing within the printer-friendly calendar, okay? So within the course calendar, there are a couple of things, and we'll talk about this in sessions. Between the 8th edition in the book and the 9th edition of the book, there were some changes from the textbook author in terms of how some of the chapters were laid out. Okay, they have a little bit different names, and I'll show you that when we get to the actual sessions. Okay. Also, what I did is I changed you know, based upon the committee's recommendation, I changed the discussion boards, so there are some, you know, sessions where there's no discussion board due, and what I put in here is none due. If there's a better way of saying it, that's fine. I took out the ones that you wanted deleted, and I moved discussion board 8 into session 8. Okay, because this includes, this is the discussion board, I believe, I can't remember, we'll look at it, but it fits better with this part of the class as opposed to post-midterm. But if you look through, you know, again, nothing was changed other than what was recommended by the committee in terms of discussion boards. Okay.
Are you seeing the comment?
Yeah, I'm seeing the comment.
Okay.
That's great. Okay. So what I'll do is I'll say, instead of saying none due, I'll put no discussion board due. And I can make that change. Good suggestion.
Yes, thank you. And if anybody else has any other comments, feel free to use the chat box or open up your mic and just let us know you have a question.
Yeah, please, if
And
you have questions or, yeah.
Yeah, I'll keep an eye on that. Carolyn, since you're sharing your screen, sometimes it's hard to see the chat box. So I'll make sure, in case you don't see another comment, I'll let you know.
Okay, all right. So, you know, in terms of where chapters were, you know, came up, and again, it's better to describe this when we get to the class sessions rather than here. But in terms of this, you know, nothing was changed other than the discussion board rearrangement as recommended by the committee. So are there any questions about that or concerns? Just one final thing. One thing that I did is I labeled the discussion board based upon the session that it's in instead of just sequentially. So you'll see that there's no discussion board 6 because there's no discussion board in that session. That just seemed to make better sense to me in trying to get things lined up well. Again, if you think that's not the best way to do it, just let me know and we can change it. But I was looking at another class, I think it's the 101 that I'm teaching right now, and the discussion boards are labeled just sequentially, and so you've got, you know, discussion board 9 in session 15, and I just thought this would be a better way to do it. So that's my thoughts on that. Okay, so any other questions about that? There is a syllabus printable file here, just like always, a printable file of the calendar, and then the calendar, and then the other things that are part of the regular shell. Okay, any questions? Should we go on to class sessions, Sarah?
Yeah, let's start with session 1,
Okay.
just so they can get an idea of what the introductory session will look like, or in what has changed, if anything.
Okay.
And then from there, you know, you can just pick the other areas of the course where you want to show what's changed and talk about it.
Okay. All right. First of all, I want to go through class sessions. You know, this is the introduction in terms of how they're laid out within the course. And there were some significant changes in the title of the chapters between the 8th edition and the 9th. So I went through and I renamed each session based upon the chapter related to that session. Okay, so you'll see some differences. Like in, let me pull my, let's see, in the previous edition, of this course on Blackboard, session 1 was called History of Abnormal Psychology. Well, the title of the chapter 1 has been changed to Abnormal Psychology Past and Present. So I changed, the title of each session to coincide with the chapters that went with it, just to make sure it was clear to students. And basically all the way through session, let me see, because I have my first and the second. Yeah, session 8. Now, one change between the 8th edition of the book, the text, and the 9th was that the chapters were changed in the text, okay? So in the 8th edition of the book, let's see, session 8 was called Somatoform and Dissociative Disorders. Those two have been put into other chapters, so there's no chapter with that title. So in the new edition of the book, chapter 8, or the chapter for session 8 is depressive and bipolar disorders. And then what the author of the text did was that he broke out treatment for mood disorders, suicides, and then disorders featuring somatic symptoms. So that's what I put in session 9. So that it's linking better to what the text is including. And so I had to rearrange those two sessions a little bit in terms of, okay, good, thanks. I had those two sessions so that they, again, fit with what the text was covering for that session. So I think that's all. Everything else, again, was just a little bit of change in wording for some of the sessions to fit with the, with what the text has. Okay, so session 1, and this is chapter 1 of the book, Abnormal Psychology, Past and Present. All right, what is abnormal, and it has the questions, those are the same, and then it briefly covers everything that is covered in this session. I did not change learning objectives because those were not changed. I did go into the content here under learning objectives and made sure that everything was correct in terms of what's in there. So I changed it to the 9th edition, chapter 1 for the text. I left in all of the videos. I did add several videos, crash course psychology videos, which I use in my face-to-face class, and I find them to be really, they align well with what we teach out of the text that we use. They're also quick, they're kind of fun. I don't know, Sarah, if you looked at any of them, but I really
yeah, they were really good. I liked them a lot.
Yeah. They're put on by two brothers, Hank and John Green. John Green is the author of A Fault in Our Stars and several other well-known books. Hank is his brother. So, and they do other topics that have been used in, I think, other classes. All right. So learning activities. We'll go into that one. This is session 1, learning activities. All right. So again, I made sure that it has, abnormal psychology 9th edition, and if you see anywhere where I've missed it, because I found one this morning, it's like, okay, I want to make sure those are all right. So I did not change the review proctoring information. I did not change the video information, and all that's been unchanged. I'm not sure what will be done with proctoring information in terms of, I think this class still has, maybe not, has you get points for saying where your proctor site will be. So, again, that's coming from, the testing people in terms of how that's done. I changed all the PowerPoints to the 9th edition lecture slides. So those have all been updated to the correct edition. I left in this video. I use TED Talks a lot in my face-to-face classes, and I really like them because they're just, sometimes they're a little long and the students get bored, but it's usually great information and someone who's really passionate about what they're doing, so I really like those. In Another Voice, these are the audio lectures. Come on. Okay, so they're from either Bristol Community College or Central Pennsylvania Community College. So anyway, those have been left. Sarah and I had a discussion about that, and I said, are they, I find these things not helpful to me because listening is just not my learning style. So, and Sarah and I had quite a discussion about this, you know, are they used? If they're used at all, then we should leave them in here. So she had, and Sarah, you can clarify this for me, you had some data collected in terms of how often they've been opened, right, in the last semester or something like that?
Yeah, yep. The past 2 semesters, I think, is what we looked at.
Right. And it couldn't tell if they had been listened to, but it did tell that they had been opened. So we
Right.
decided to leave those in. Now there are some that are missing transcripts, so we have to get those, and those have been that's been outlined in several places. So we do need to make sure those transcripts are in there by the time we see. Here's one here missing a transcript. The Bailey DR. There's the audio file, but not the transcript for the file. So. Let's see if I can get back from where I am. Okay, so then I added the crash course psychology, and some of them aligned. I only used a few of them, but they aligned really well with the chapters. This one's on psychological disorders, and it looks at history, and you know, again, it's 11 minutes, kind of cute. They do a really good job of outlining what they're going to, you know, what they're going to cover, and then what they do cover. So it's a really nice way for a student to kind of get a little refresher, or you know, some backup on what they're learning from a different you know, source. So, okay, so that's the learning activities. So let me back up. All right, the self-check I did not change. I went through them. They look like they were fairly, you know, helpful. The only thing I did try to make sure that they were correct in terms of the addition and things like that. So just that quick check. Okay, assignments and assessments. All right, so here's the discussion board 1. It wasn't changed at all. The only thing I added is this last paragraph about, you know, complete an original post. Your original post must be a minimum of 250 words to meet the requirements of this assignment. In addition, you must provide response posts to 2, you know, and those must be a minimum of 100 words. I redid the rubric, which is in the resources section, and we can show that later in terms of what was changed. Basically, I made, you know, I increased the rubric to 15 points, and then I made the original post 12 points with a breakout, and then the 2 response posts were 1.5 points each to come up to 15. And you'll see that paragraph on every discussion board. Okay, and then the quiz. All right, what we did in the previous version of this course, the quizzes and the tests had specific questions that were included within the quiz or the test. What we did with this, and again, Sarah and I talked about this several times, was we changed it and we uploaded the new test bank, and so each quiz is drawing randomly from the test bank for each chapter. I did that because it gives every student a different test, and so they're all random. It really encourages them to make sure that they study everything and make sure that they're, you know, trying to keep as much, gather as much of the information as they can. And it seems like this is the way it's done in Psych 101, and so I think just in terms of continuation of the way the courses are done, it's a good way to continue. So we took out all the pre-selected test questions and quiz questions for the entire course and used random questions from the test bank for every quiz and every test. So.
I have a question, please.
Uh-huh.
How big is the test bank roughly for each chapter? How many questions are in it?
Oh, let me see.
Typical 100?
Yeah, usually about 120.
Okay.
Let me see if I can pull it up. Edit the test. For chapter 1, there's 120 questions in the test bank.
Okay. And we have 20 questions on that. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm kind of sad to see that go because I think some test banks don't always capture, the questions in them don't really capture the most important concepts or pieces of the chapter. And so there's 120 different questions out of one chapter, and they're going to get 20 of them. That means they're not going to get 100 of them. And it's just a personal feeling I have about test banks, that they can be way too broad, then they can ask questions that are really not that important. But I also buy your rationale, and I'm okay with it, but I just wanted to say that sometimes it's better to limit these, get some people to look at what it is that we really want them to learn, not, what's in the third paragraph on page 75 and, the third sentence, which is sometimes how these things can get that detailed.
Right.
And maybe it's the broader concept of a theory. But that's my personal opinion. I just wanted to get it out there. I noticed that in Psych 101, we're doing that, and performance in our 8 or 9 sections is not going that well. Of course, we have thousands of quizzes in that course too. But I'll just put it out there and let it go. I just wanted to say that. I think your rationale is also good. I personally do not feel that there's issues related to having the same questions. This idea that each test needs to be a little bit different, and random, I just, I'm not overly concerned that students are out there sharing tests. But that's all I'll say. Thanks. I think so far it looks great, but I just had to say that one comment about the test.
I agree with you totally, because it's kind of like, do we want to pick questions which, I or you or whoever think are most important that they learn, or, do we go with the random? And either one is probably fine. I know there's bad questions within the test bank, and students will email me or, ask me questions, and I'll go back in and then I'll email the company and say, hey, this is just not a good question, or it's incorrect. So you run into that too. So I agree with you. I don't think there's a right way or a wrong way. I know in my Psych 101 class, I went into a test that a student had an issue with. It was it was her midterm, I think. And the first 10 questions were all on learning theory. And it's like, there was a big proportion of the test was all on that, So, and again, it's the random draw of the questions, I think. So there were other things that I think could have been better questions. And they do get nitpicky too, I think, so I agree with you totally. And again, if there's a big issue about this, we can change it. But this was the choice we made for right now. So
well, thanks for addressing it, Carolyn.
Okay. Any other questions about that or concerns? I keep getting. Okay. So let me back up. I think that pretty much covers session 1. Yep, that pretty much covers session 1. So I did not change the summary at all. Again, the issue, the things that are covered weren't changed significantly. So, all right. Let me go to resources and I'll show you the rubric. The rubric for the discussion board is linked to the assignment. So if you are grading it, as an instructor, I really like this when I'm instructing, that I can pull up the rubric, and I can point directly to where this is where you missed these points on this assignment. I'm kind of a linear person, so for me it's like, oh, that's a lot easier to be able to do that, and it's much more objective, I think. So none of the things in here were changed. I did not change the other rubrics. The only thing I did is I did change the discussion board rubric, and so as you can see, the original post has 12 points, and I did stress within here the minimum word requirement for each part of that. first reply has 1.5 points, and then the second reply has 1.5 points. So I'm teaching Psych 101 this semester, and the course was changed, and one of my frustrations that I've submitted several things to Sarah Prophet about is that I'm really frustrated because they don't give points for the replies, within the rubric for that class now. And for me, it's like it makes it easier for me to grade if I know, okay, you've got 1.5 points, you have 3 points, or whatever. And we need to make sure, if you're not doing that part of the assignment, which I have several students who will post and not do responses, I want to know how much, consistently do I take off if that's the problem. And the frustrating thing for me as an instructor is that I'll tell them in my remarks, in my feedback, you need to do your response posts, and I don't know if they read that or not, but they continue to not do them, so they're losing points through the whole semester. Okay. Sarah, what do you think we should cover next? Let me go to the class session with the first, let me see, which one is it? Case study. Okay. All right, one of the initial, and this was my error in not communicating well, was I had said that I wanted to make some changes within the case studies, and it wasn't within the case study itself. What I wanted to do was make sure that students were very clear on what was required. So this is the first case study, and one of the frustrations or the difficulties I had when I've taught this class online is that several students kind of do whatever they want, and then some of them look within, the assignment and see, oh, here's something on how to write a case study, and they open that up and they follow it exactly, and they get the higher points. So I added, let's see, within the assignment. Okay, before you start writing your paper, review the information regarding how to do a case study and the explanation of differential diagnosis. That wasn't changed. Please review the attached link above, how to write a case study. It will give you a brief outline on how to complete this assignment correctly. To see how you would be graded on this assignment, click the rubric button after clicking on the assignment link. So I wanted to direct the students to that document and say, this is how you do it. If you follow this, as I've seen in my classes I've taught, if you follow the way this is done exactly, you'll get, the most points you can get on this assignment because you've done it correctly. So again, it's a matter of clarifying to the student, this is how you do it, and this is a resource available. So I didn't change the case studies. I didn't, the only thing I did was direct the students to that document. Again, this is in each of the case studies, and hopefully they'll read it. Maybe I need to highlight it, I don't know. But anyway, that's one of the things I did change. Okay. Trying to think of any other changes. I added crash course psychology videos to several sections here. Let me see if I can find my list. Yeah, sessions 6, 7, 8, 10, 13, 14 all have those additional videos on them. Again, just because they're quick, they're fun, and they cover the information really well, I think. They don't quite align exactly with some things, but they're close enough, and the information comes up later in the semester. So that worked out really well. One thing on session 16, and Sarah and I talked about this, learning activities. This was a final exam video review, which I went through and I said the exam looks fine, the material looks fine. But I did add a caveat here. This review can be helpful in preparing for the final exam. In the video, it says that I'm getting feedback. Okay, so it says there's some incorrect information in the video. It says the final is 3 hours, and also it will cover chapters 8 through 18 in your current text. So I added that information. So it's like you can watch the video. It gives you great information, but please be aware that these things are not correct within the video. So and Sarah and I talked about that, about leaving it in with that caveat. Okay. Sarah, is there anything else that you think I should go over?
I think you've covered all of the changes that that were in the project summary. I guess I would ask the group if there's anything else
Yeah,
that they wanted to see specifically.
Yeah, I just saw a comment about losing sound. So does everyone have their sound back?
I never lost sound, so I'm assuming.
Yeah. I just had an echo for a little bit. I think someone was leaving.
Yeah, okay. Richard says he can hear us, so I think Patricia's having audio issues. Yeah, so I would just ask the group if there's anything else that they want to see specifically, or if there's anything that might need to be explained a little bit further, or if you guys want to type in the chat or open up your mic and let us know what else you want to see, if there is anything else. Okay, well, I'll just describe next steps then. So what Carolyn and I are going to do is just go through the notes that we had from the meeting today and make any last-minute tweaks on the course. And then I discussed earlier in my introduction about the tech check process. So we will have one of our online technology coordinators from across the state come through or go into the course rather and check all of the links and make sure everything is aligned. And that'll be the final review of the course that we have. And then anything that comes out of that process, we will make additional updates and then release the course from there. So that'll be the process, and this version of the course will go out for the spring semester coming up next year. So keep an eye out for that. And I just want to say before we end that I do appreciate everybody's time today and your feedback throughout the process. I know Carolyn really appreciates that as well. So we always like to have that participation and feedback from the committee. It's always nice to have extra eyes on the course and just get different perspectives. So we really do appreciate that. And to Carolyn, thank you for all of your time and effort on the course. You've done a great job. And everything looks great, so it all came together. I know at the beginning it was a lot, but it did all come together. So great job on everything in the course. It really does look great. So thank you for that.
Okay, thank you.
All right, if there's nothing further, then we'll go ahead and close the meeting. I will send out the link to the recording, which I'm going to go ahead and stop right